All right, welcome back to another off-season edition of MLive's Dungeon of Doom podcast. I'm Ben Raven. He is Kory Woods. Kory, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's obviously a pretty busy week. I took that trip to New York, and then what felt like 5 hours after I landed, after a million delays, the Lions hired their new offensive coordinator,
Yeah.
Drew Petzing, over from the Arizona Cardinals, taking over for the Detroit Lions. Interesting hire. I think everyone's initial reactions were fair because it was like, who? Arizona Cardinals OC? What's up? Like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on? Nothing about the Cardinals seemed good this last season. And that was fair. But I will say, and we'll get into this obviously more later because this is basically a one topic podcast with a couple of questions tacked on at the end. It's that time of year. But I would just say I have warmed in recent days for multiple reasons. I'm assuming you had a first initial reaction. Where are you now? What, 3 or 4 days later? It is Thursday, January 22nd.
Yeah, my first reaction was who as well. Not and it was more so off of the simple fact that at that time that we were, thinking about who they could possibly, give the job to, there were six candidates, one who actually got another job elsewhere. David Blau got promoted to defensive coordinator for Commander. So then there were five. And when Drew Petzing came out, it was the shock that we did not hear his name at all of the reported names out there. So it was time like, hey, let's go do some homework on this guy.
For sure.
And when you see what the Cardinals did last year, you're like, oh, all right, that's interesting. But then you look at the number of injuries they had, and you look at what he did in 2023 and 2024. I'm like, okay, this guy walked in there and spoke Dan Campbell's language.
Yeah, no, and exactly. I think that's the thing I kept coming back to. I was talking with some fans on Blue Sky yesterday, and it was kind of like, man, because the one main question I had about this thing is the timing of it. There's still teams playing in the playoffs with plenty of coaching candidates on those teams. Coaching movements still happen around the league and all that stuff. And it just to me seemed like they hired a guy early that maybe didn't have a ton of competition, but then you have to think that Kevin Stefanski just took over as Falcons head coach, got a lot of ties to Petzing there. So maybe they felt the pressure there. It just kind of every concern I had. And I just want to be clear. I'm not calling this a no doubt home run hire. I just think that this is a solid B minus B in this current moment. And the one thing, as I started saying there, a little scatterbrained, was just that there was clear conviction and confidence in a fit after meeting with Dan Campbell and talking with Jared Goff and meeting with Brad Holmes and all those guys. And I know the wound of the John Morton hiring is still fresh. Like, I get it. Like, be concerned. Last year sucked. You should be concerned. You should kind of be on edge. But at the same time, I think Dan Campbell still deserves a ton of trust in knowing what fits his team, knowing what fits his staff. And I think going outside of the building, I know they technically went outside last year, but Morton had worked here under him before. It's different. This is someone he's never coached with before. I think that shows growth, a little flexibility.
That was the one thing that was real key for me is that they got somebody who had no ties to Dan and that was able to come in there with a fresh set of eyes and say, hey, this is how I would go about things if I were in this role, just assuming that's how it happened. And to me, that was big because even though Scotty Montgomery and Hank Friendly are guys that do know offense, and I'm pretty sure they'd be a fine OCs anywhere if they were selected. I believe after coming off of John Morton and you went back to the well and got him and it did not work, if you went with the name that was in-house, that would have came off as a very same old uninspired move that would not have, galvanized the fan base. Now this one, I won't say this one is galvanized the fan base either. There's a bit of a mixed reaction. I'm seeing a little bit more towards the negative leaning side at first, but now I'm starting to see some people kind of come around to it. So at least in that aspect that they had six names initially. They went through them. We know they now are seven because the kids Petzing got the job, but they did their homework. And I say that this move with Petzing, it's gonna work because it has to work. Campbell and Company don't have a choice for this but to work. And I believe that they did enough of their homework to where they're like, okay, we feel that this can be the guy to get things back on work because a couple things that they were talking about in the end of season presser was attention to detail and leadership. Not sure what the leadership part Petzing has, but from everything that I've read, attention to detail does appear to be one of his strong suits.
Yeah, and I'll just say this: not all interviews or interest leaks out or is reported. So, I mean, it's very likely this list was
Even longer.
higher. You know, they, yeah, exactly. No, I would guess probably 15 or so higher. But yeah, I think the reaction was fair.
Yeah.
You can't expect fans to know who the Cardinals offensive coordinator is. You can't expect them to be pumped up on day one about that. But like you said, kind of as the beat and us have gone through researching him, what he's about, what he's done, the circumstances he faced in Arizona, kind of like, all right, like it's a 38-year-old, young, up and rising offensive mind who did interview for the Bears head coaching job last year, who had a pretty solid first two seasons. And I think the thing that sticks out the most about those first two seasons is the rushing attack, which was great. But like, here's the thing. Jonathan Gannon was a defensive coordinator, first time head coach. Petzing's first offensive coordinator job in the NFL. He's going in blind. He's got no help from his head coach for his offense. That was all him. And those first 2 years with the Cardinals, really freaking good on the ground. I mean, what he got out of James Conner, what he did in jumbo personnel, 13 personnel with less resources on the offensive line, with less resources at quarterback and wide receiver, did a pretty good job. And I just 2023, you know, they had a fourth in EPA per rush, eighth in rushing success rate. Went up in 2024. I mean, they were 12th in points, 11th in yards, eighth in EPA per play, seventh in EPA rush per rush, and ninth in rushing success rate. I mean, we're talking about James Conner. I think was in his seventh and eighth or eighth and ninth seasons there. First 2,000 yard seasons come when he lands in Arizona under Petzing, and I just think the fact that he was able to kind of put his plan into place and kind of get it off, not only with Gannon not offering much as an offensive mind, but with the weird 3 years out of Kyler Murray, too. Like, even when Murray's been healthy,
That's key right there.
it's been freaking weird. Like, that's the only thing we've talked about nationwide about the Cardinals for the last 3 years is what the hell's going on with Kyler Murray and why isn't Marvin Harrison an all pro? You know, just like that's kind of it. So I just, the more you dig in, the more you see the fit, and the more you, I mean, his work with the tight ends, his work with the running game is fantastic. I mean, do what you got to do for Sam Laporta's back to heal up because there's a great situation
Yeah.
waiting for him in Detroit when if he's able to go by training camp like they hope.
I mean, you factor in that he is going to be inheriting a significantly better offense than what he had in Arizona. Then you also have to factor in, you talked about Gannon as a coach. Not going to go too deep into that, but the coaching staff he's going to be coming into and working with on a daily basis in Detroit's going to be a lot different. First, you're going to have an offensive mind of Dan Campbell that's just going to be able to coach him up and show him what he works or what he wants to have done. And Dan Campbell's a brilliant offensive mind, whether people want to give him his credit or not. Then you still got Mark Brunell, Scotty Montgomery, Tashard Choice. He's worked with Hank Fraley before. So there's some relationship right there. And he worked with Ben Johnson back in Boston College. So I mean,
Stood in his wedding.
yeah, stood in his wedding. So I mean, you factor in that he's coming into not only a better situation as far as offensive talent, but offensive minds. I'm with you, Ben. Of the names out there, it was a bit of a shocker. But when you come down off the ledge a little bit, it's like, okay, I understand why they made this particular hire. And the one thing that I'm curious about is, and I'm pretty sure we may or may not get an answer about that is, I wonder what happened with some of those other interviews where it felt like they had to make this decision right now because and again, even if they waited like another couple of days, who knows? Maybe Petsy may not have been there. Maybe he would have. Like you said, Kevin Stefanski just got the Falcons job, so he could have been a candidate to go out there. But I just wonder, like, what happened where with some of those other interviews that they felt they had to make the Petzing move now? Because I mean, even right after Jeff Darlington came out and said that Dan Campbell liked McDaniel, but the Lions didn't view him as a fit. So I'm like, okay, what exactly do you mean right there?
Yeah. I, yeah.
Because you see that you see McDaniel withdrew his name from head coaching interviews. I'm like, okay, maybe McDaniel made have said something he wanted to stay out there for head coaching interviews. He withdrew his name from head coaching interviews. He withdrew his name from consideration for the Eagles and the Buccaneers OC jobs, but then he took the Chargers one. So did something happen in that interview where it didn't go well? Or did McDaniel just want to kind of get back out west, which would kind of make sense because going from San Fran to Miami to Los Angeles is not a bad idea
It's
weather-wise.
not bad
So
at all.
it's yeah, so it's just I have a lot of questions that we may or may not get answered, but again, and when you step back from it, you kind of understand why they made the move.
Yeah, I was also curious about what that Darlington report meant. Like they loved him, but they just didn't see a fit. And then you looked at someone like Petzing, who uses heavy set formations like a lot more than most, like the running game stuff. Maybe they were just kind of like, all right, we feel, maybe I'm talking about the Lions perspective. Maybe Dan and them were like, we feel good about our passing game. I don't think we need to overhaul the passing game, which would come with McDaniel, and I don't think we should overhaul it at the expense of the rushing attack, which we feel like Petzing can take to another level because we already have a lot of those pieces in place here. I was curious about that too, because I didn't like McDaniel just because of the name. I liked McDaniel as a candidate because I think he's a brilliant young offensive mind. And I know Dan was looking to make a long-term hire, not to be looking over his shoulder if the OC is going to be leaving after every offseason. And I mean, that's going to happen with Mike McDaniel for as long as he's an offensive coordinator. Like he's going to be getting interviews, he's going to be getting talked about. So I think that played into it there. And to your point, I think I'm looking for the tweet I saw about McDaniel. It was from Dave Hellman of the Athletic Football Show. Where is it? For Mike McDaniel to take the Chargers OC job. Buy a place with a view in Manhattan Beach. Commute 12 minutes to work. Coach Justin Herbert. Grab lunch with Steve Nash and Luka Doncic. Be completely left alone because everyone either makes more money than you or doesn't know what the Chargers are. I get it, and I just think that was a very funny, but like 95% true tweet.
Very, very, very
Just
accurate.
and I think the one thing we do need to mention about Petzing's last year in Arizona,
It's those injuries.
uh, oh my God. I, I mean, thank you to Jeremy Reisman for putting this list together in one place for me. I was about to do it, and then I was like, you know what? I'll just give him a shout out. He's got it done. Kyler Murray missed 12 games. James Conner missed 14 games. Trey Benson missed 13 games. Zonovan Knight missed 5 games. Tip Raymond missed 13 games. Marvin Harrison missed 5 games. Greg Dortch missed 5 games. Zay Jones missed 9 games. Paris Johnson missed 5 games. Evan Brown missed 6 games. Will Hernandez missed 10 games, and Jonah Williams missed 8
They're
games. I think
professionally
they like
dead.
I I had this. I think they started 5 different running backs this season, and I think they had something like a terrifying amount of offensive line combinations. And it's and I think that was the shock of the hire, is because it's like, what the hell? The Cardinals were terrible this year.
Yes.
What are you doing? And then it's like, all right, okay, okay,
You're
okay.
looking at
For the
2023 and
final
2024.
yeah, yeah. That took a minute to get there, you know.
Yeah.
And then I remembered some of the 24 stuff. Really creative offensive line work, really creative running game. Just seemed to get the most out of his production. Coached quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends. Is a man. He's worked magic with tight ends. But yeah, just last year. I mean, before I start talking about some of those strengths, I'll finish my thought. The like last 8 or 9 games of the season, Jacoby Brissett was just throwing the ball like 45 times a game, and I'm like, this is a hilarious bit, but what the hell's going on? Just like, but then I look at the injury list and I look at what they had at running back and I look at what they had at offensive line. And it was like, oh yeah, it was either throw to Wilson, throw to McBride, and repeat because Marv missed so much time. And but hey, I mean, it's hard to look at 2025 and kind of be like, because if you just look at 2025, it's like, what the hell are they doing? But then you look at 23 and 24, and you're like, okay, they went from Cliff Kingsbury's air raid offense to Petzing's like traditional NFL offense. That's not easy to do without a complete personnel overhaul, and then to have the moderate success he had in 23 and 24 before things fell off. There's there's more to like than there's more to not like. And once again, I'm in B minus B territory. I'm not telling you this is a home run, no doubt hire, but I see the fit. It's pretty freaking clear.
Yeah, I'm hovering I'm hovering closer to, I want to say B minus, and here's why. I just want to give a little bit of how can I say?
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I
That's
think,
fair.
yeah, I'm leaning more B minus. Just so it was a little bit of a buff room to kind of see how this does play out. I just kind of question, like, when you got guys like Jake Peets out there. I wasn't really too, when I heard T Martin, I'm like, okay. But when you got a guy like Jake Peets out there, you got Mike McDaniel. Heck, even to a degree, people may get at me. Arthur Smith. I just kind of wonder, like, is Petzing is an interesting choice to land at, but again, 38, obviously wanted the job. And I think one thing that probably appealed to Campbell is not only the fact that he's been a signal caller, but he's worked the multiple positions at different stops. I mean, you talked about the stuff that he did with Jacoby Brissett and Trey McBride. You can also go to what he did in Minnesota, as an assistant quarterbacks coach, working with Kirk Cousins and what he did there when he was working with the receivers. Adam Thielen went undrafted to, Pro Bowl, All Pro stuff under working with Petzing, and then Stephon Diggs before he went to the Bills. His that season before he went to the Bills, that was his career best with Petzing coaching the wide receiver. So I think there's something there that he's at least you see at those different spots he's able to go ahead and connect with his players and draw something out of them.
You just, I think he plays football the way Dan Campbell likes to play football. I mean,
That's what I think it is.
and it's the Cardinal. I think Dan would like to probably take some more deep shots and stretch the field a little more, which they will have to just simply based on the pieces that they have. And I think that's the one thing that you see between the Lions and Cardinals is like not a lot of deep shots, not a lot of deep shots. But we'll see here because I think this hire means two things. One, the offensive line is going to get a ton of resources put into it this season. And two, they will be adding tight end depth. I don't know if
Oh
that's
yeah, because he's running heavy personnel.
dude.
13.
No team over the last 3 seasons ran more 13 personnel with one running back and three tight ends from 2023 to 2025. I mean, they use extra blockers, they use extra tight ends. The Lions love to do that. Dan Skipper is a freaking cult hero in Detroit because they like to do that so much. And I mean, you hope that Brock Wright is healthy. You hope that Sam Laporta is healthy, but like it wouldn't hurt to draft a big, nasty third tight end to throw into that mix too. But I really do like that fit because we're talking about what he did. And this is no shade at James Conner, but James Conner ain't Jahmyr Gibbs.
Hey,
And,
I mean that just is what it is.
and the first thing I thought of is like, man, if I was Drew Petzing taking this job, you know what I would want back? David
David
Montgomery.
Montgomery.
Oh, look at us. We're freaking locked in. I almost dropped the F bomb. I was so excited. I mean,
That's what I was
honestly.
thinking because I'm like, Jameer, don't get it twisted. Jameer is one of the most dynamic players in the league. I still think that he's still a possible offensive player of the year candidate in the future. But yeah, to just like we were just saying, like with what you're about to run, it would be nice to have David Montgomery back in town because that would just make this work only better. One thing that not to get too far off track, one thing that did make me kind of wonder about was when you said they're gonna have to get an extra tight end. I was wondering. I still think they need to go get an extra tight end, but I'm wondering all that talk we heard last year about possibly converting Jackson Meeks into a tight end. Could that be a possibility as well? Not necessarily saying he would be a starter, but somewhere using that rotation down the line.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because a lot of times with that personnel, your third tight end is an offensive tackle or someone like that. But if you could, hey, Jackson, why don't you throw on about 15, 20 pounds this offseason?
Yeah, that's what I'm at. Yeah.
I don't hate it. I love stuff like that. Like I remember growing up When safeties would start playing linebacker, I loved it. When wide receivers would get a little look at tight end, I just love it. It just adds a little different athleticism, different looks, different speed in the short routes and stuff. I would explore it because they really, I mean, you need the personnel to go with this offense. And I mean, and if Dan is teaming up with someone who runs heavy set personnel that much, they're going to run heavy set personnel more than anybody in the freaking league. Goff is going to be under center more. It's interesting, but obviously there's a ton of questions. We're not going to go back into offensive line talk. We've been doing that for 3 freaking weeks.
Yeah.
They need it. They need a lot of it. They need a center. They need guard depth. They need a long-term tackle because you got to bank on Taylor Decker not being here. And I think you need to approach tight end the same way. Like, you can feel confident Sam Laporte will be back next season, but don't go in just crossing your fingers hoping he's back for training camp or week 1. You need tight end depth. You need offensive line depth for this offense to work. And Dan Campbell needs this offense to work because if you whiff on 3 OC hires in 6 years, that's not good.
That's where I'm at because I know a lot of people Campbell's been getting a lot of flack, and I say it like this: Anthony Lynn, complete failure. Don't even need to go into too
He
deep
was
on
a
that.
first-time head coach,
Yeah.
hiring a former NFL head coach.
Yeah.
I don't even count that one for the record because that was a hire at the time I fully supported because it was like, damn, I like that a lot. Like,
Yeah, then Ben, we know what happened there.
Yeah.
John Morton, we understood what he was trying to do. It wasn't a complete failure, but it did not produce
Yeah.
the desired results. But to the point is just like, okay, Petzing has to be the guy because if he's not the guy, then the questions are going to start coming back to you like, okay, what are you doing here at
Yeah.
OC? Because now you're talking about on whiffing on 3 out of the 4 if Petzing doesn't work.
Yeah, and I do just think the trust in Dan Campbell should remain high. I think he's earned it. He's done more right than wrong. You know, he did what he thought was best for the team last year.
Yeah.
He grabbed someone that had worked with Jared before, that spoke his language, that he thought, that he believed knew what he wanted on offense. But anytime you lose your play caller duties 8 games into the season, you don't really clearly know it. And I just think, you know, and shout out Nolan Bianchi. He wrote this, he tweeted it. Drew Petzing is not John Morton. It's okay. It's okay to be nervous after what happened last year, but like,
Yeah, it definitely is.
they're not the same. They're from different coaching backgrounds. Petzing's from the Norv Turner, Stefanski, worked with a lot of those kind of guys' names, and Morton was a Sean Payton, John Gruden disciple. This is different. This is a different coaching tree. Petzing has not worked with Campbell before. I mean, so just relax. Just relax a little, like Amon-Ra St. Brown said. Although I'm not going to call you guys non-ball knowers because you guys submit great mailbag questions.
Ooh, that's set the
I know,
internet
I was
on
like,
fire.
I'm not going to go there. A lot of you guys are ball knowers, and a lot of the concerns I saw were just like, how does this fit? Who the hell is this guy? I thought this was a coveted job. All fair questions. At the end of the day, Dan was always going to go with his gut, his conviction. Like Brad Holmes said, once we sit you down in a room, and if I know, I know. So this wasn't just Dan. I mean, this really is a 50-50 collaboration between Holmes and Campbell. Obviously, Campbell's probably going to have a little more say with his coaching staff, but like, Brad's signing off too. I got to imagine Brad's not just like, hey, do your thing, man. No, after last season, everybody's involved. So
Yeah, that's what I was like. Again, this has to be the guy. It has to work because I'm not sitting here and saying hot seat or nothing like that. It's just that perception wise, results wise, Petzing has to be the guy. And that's why I'm believing like, okay, they did their homework on this one. They're really believing this can be the guy to, I'm not even going to say unlock the offense, just get them back to the basics of what works for them and maybe, a couple little wrinkles, new twist in there.
Yeah. I mean, I just, and this is the one note I wrote down while just going through stuff. And this is off topic, it's out of base, but one of my favorite things that I like about this, the Cardinals ran 60% of their runs, like nearly 60% of the runs outside the tackles, like 4th highest rate in the NFL. Dude, jump that up to 70% and do 60 of them to the right side, and you'll be all right in this scheme. Like, there's just a lot of fits I like. I think we've covered all that. I think we're good. We got a couple mailbag questions to get out of here. Wow, we got a lot of Tesla questions. I think we got a lot of Tesla questions this week because the Lions just hired an OC that uses a lot of tight ends and relies on the top two receivers, and everybody's like, "The hell did we trade all those third round picks for?" Is
Third,
essentially
yep.
questions. We got one from Spencer B. Is Isaac Tesla going to pan out for as much as they spent in the draft, or is this just going to turn into wow, David Kirkus 2.0, always hyped, full of hope, never really productive? All right. David Kirkus, great name mention, Grand Valley State. Uh, not comparable. Tesla, every time Tesla had a chance or an increased role this season, it seemed like he made the most out of it. A true vertical threat, offers a 50-50 guy that they really don't have. I still think there's I would not have made the trade that let me just put it this way. I would not have made the trade they made to go up and get him last year, but I fully think that was a good pick and it's going to be a good player, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I still like again, I still question the mortgaging of the draft capital. I mean, not saying I mean the third round picks, those things, those come in handy when you're trying to make those, you know, those mid-season trades. That's what I'm trying to get at, mid-season trades. But as long as there is a plan for Tesla, it can pan out because we saw what he did down the stretch when Campbell took over the play calling. His role increased, and when his number was called, more times than not, he answered. So, I am curious to see how they plan to use him in Petzing's office, but I don't think he's going to be one of those guys who's going to get washed away or anything like that.
No, I'm just going to go through the people are Les White. The Lions gave up 2 additional picks to draft Tesla. Now they signed an OC who specializes in tight end use. Are Holmes and Campbell still on the same page? Yes, those guys are still on the same page, 100%. Right? Like right. There's no question. Right?
Oh yeah, I mean, again, they need everything this season to work. So I believe that they're probably in more lockstep going into this offseason than probably before, just off the simple fact that there cannot be any slips, anything falling through the cracks as far as rebuilding this team and being aligned in their vision on how to get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, where we at? From the God King of Mars. I do not know if Petzing is closer to Ben Johnson or Jim Bob Cooter, but for him to have any chance to succeed, Holmes needs to rebuild the offensive line this offseason. New starting center in free agency and draft an OT day 1 or day 2. Uh, I'm of the mind sign a veteran center in free agency, spend a second or third round pick on one in the draft, and absolutely take the best tackle available in the first round. Is where I'm at.
I'm there, but the one thing I just want to kind of add on to that is regardless of whether they hired Petzing or not, any OC candidate they hired was going to need though the
Yeah, doesn't matter.
offensive line to be rebuilt for them to have a fighting chance. That's just of my opinion. Whether it would have been McDaniel, Peets,
Yep.
Smith, Robinson, anybody, whoever they hired, they have to take a serious look at probably restructuring some of those contracts to free up some money and then looking at both the draft and free agency to add some quality depth to this offensive line because you cannot go back into the season doing what you did last year, banking on guys to return and then boom, they retire on you. Or in one point that you made really, really well, giving a guy a starting job where he basically had no competition going into the season. When I'm talking about Christian Mahogany, so they definitely have to. You know, Campbell said he talked about he want to bring some competition in this offseason. You definitely need to go ahead and bring that in at those key spots because you got to keep Jared Goff upright. You got to be able to open up this run blocking and get those holes going. And again, now that you got Petzing in this scheme that he runs, you're definitely going to need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've hit that nail over the head so many freaking times, but
Yeah.
I just even if the veteran center you sign in free agency doesn't start at center, I just think you need a pure center in the mix that gives you a little more flexibility in the draft. Say if a guard has played some center, who has actually played some center, unlike Tate Ratledge, who had never played center in a game before. But I think you need to take a tackle in first round, whether he's right tackle, whether he's left tackle, whether Taylor Decker comes back and he plays guard or competes at guard for a couple years. I don't care. I don't care. They need so much on that offensive line. They already needed that, as you eloquently just said. With this hire, needed even more to fit that scheme. Like you are saying this is our identity. I know what this past season looked like, but we are still going to punch you in the freaking face in the trenches. Well, you got to have the pieces to do that. You got to have the tools to do that. And I'm not all the way out on Mahogany. I just was blown away that somebody with 2 starts as a 6th round pick was like anointed as the starting guy. I'm just like, I think that was a whiff. Like,
Yeah, and that's
was
where
yeah.
again, I think I like the fact that Campbell said that we need to bring in some competition.
And that's the first
So
person I
I'm
thought
like,
of. Yeah.
yeah, so that's I'm like, yeah, so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Basically, to me, it's saying like
Hmm.
your job is not necessarily guaranteed for some of you guys. If some of you guys are going to have to earn your keep and going into this next season, and hey, I'm with it.
Yeah, for sure. John 16. We essentially just answered that question. Just wanted to make sure he saw that we heard him. New Millennium Skynide Cap agreed. Oh, he was saying blah blah. The least inspiring part of the Morton hire was that he was an old guy they already knew. Petzing had to convince Campbell of his ideas, which bodes well. Question: is there anything on Arizona's tape from last year that is worrisome when thinking about Petzing hire? I mean, everything about Arizona's tape in 2025 is worrisome. We kind of covered that already. I mean, you can't obviously delete it from his resume because it happened, but I just think they didn't have the staff, him included. You know, he could have done more to get creative. He could have done more to adjust on the fly. He could have done more to adjust for the weaknesses that were there due to injuries. Instead, they
Yeah.
went to like a Jacoby Brissett throwing 40 plus times every game, only targeting Trey McBride. I mean, hey, Trey McBride, NFL record 126 catches for a tight end this past season. His ascent has been real. That has happened under Petzing. That is why do your candle rituals, whatever you got to do for Laporta, because there is a freaking offense tailor made for that dude, especially if they get a couple blockers, an extra tackle that can handle things.
Yeah.
Maybe Manu's ready to step into the skipper role as the extra blocker. I feel like that's his ceiling, not starting tackle, but like,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe that's
We'll
irresponsible,
see.
as Brad Holmes said, but like, I don't know, man. I just, everything about the 2025 tape is worrisome, and that is why everybody freaked out at first, and that is why it took even us who do this for a living to like, all right, damn, I got to dive into this. I got to learn more about this guy. How did he even get on their radar? And then you look to 23 and 24, and you understand how he got on their radar. But like, yeah, everything about 2025 was worrisome, but it like also didn't feel like the offense they ran the previous couple of years. They didn't have their tight. We already went through the injuries, but yes, everything about the tape was worrisome in 2025. But it's burn tape, not teach tape.
Yeah. Most definitely.
I just
Burn it. Don't look back.
every offense would have looked like crap with that roster's health and where that roster was last year. I mean, the offensive line, the receivers, the quarterback, the running backs, they're running. I just here's the homework assignment for you guys listening. Go to the Cardinals 2025 Pro Football Reference page and look at the number of guys who got carries out of that backfield this year. Bam Knight was like their lead running back down the season, like at the end of the season. That dude was on the practice squad here last year. Like the personnel was down. So obviously you can be concerned about maybe some of the adjustments and how things went. 9-game losing streak to finish the season, but look to 23 and 24 and how he operated without a ton of oversight from his head coach, who was a defensive coach, a first-time head coach, clearly out of his realm a little bit there. But like Petzing was able to do some really good things in his first 2 years as an offensive coordinator. He's got a really interesting just background, worked with some great coaches. We went through all that. We're not telling you it's a home run. We're not telling you it's a perfect hire. We're not telling you it's going to work, but we are telling you that it's not the nightmare hire that so many reacted in the initial 12 hours thought it was. And, you know, that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to wait and see and trust your head coach. He's earned it more than most. He's asking you to do it one more time.
Yeah. Just like I said, after just stepping off that ledge, it's just more so like, all right, this is who you're going with.
Yeah,
It makes sense why you're going with this guy. I am not going to slam it, but I'm not going to tell everybody to just,
exactly.
hey, break out your pom poms. We're just more so going to just explain to you this is why they made the hire. And even if you don't like it, there is logic to the
Ex-
hiring as opposed to just like, well, who did it is like I said, it's not to kind of take the St. Brown approach and say you don't know ball, but it does come to the fact that they did not hire some random guy. They hired a guy who they believe can get them back to their ethos. And when you look at the results of what he did in Arizona in 2023 and 2024, it points to that.
Yeah, and it's a 38-year-old offensive-minded coach who's got 3 years of NFL play calling experience under his belt and who just won Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, and all those guys over in interviews. That's not nothing. So, yeah.
And again, I really think this is going to be the biggest thing for me is that again, on top of the offensive talent that he already has, he's going to be coming into a more experienced coaching system with more experienced offensive minds that he can learn from. Because I mean, again,
Mhm.
even though Ben has been around the league a while, he said he's learned under Campbell. You're
Yeah.
pretty sure he's learned some things from working with Scotty and working with Mark Brunell. So
Mhm.
and in that regard, so hey, we'll
Right.
see.
We'll see. That's about it for us this week. We will probably take next week off and then come back the following week while Super Bowl media week and all that stuff's going on and people are talking crap and talking about stuff and coaches or whatever. You know what it is. But next week is kind of like the dead zone between conference titles and Super Bowl. Obviously, the Senior Bowl is going down in Mobile. I will not be there. It's all right. I love that. I love Mobile. It's a cool trip, but like we're gonna do our homework at home during that and be watching from afar. That I love going to that event when like I do see Tuiaso Sopo is helping coach the quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl. Like when the Lions were coaching one of the staffs there, that was like such a worthwhile event. Like it was so cool
Oh
to see.
yeah.
But yeah, that's what's going on next week. We'll probably take a week off from the pod next week. We do need one of those, and then we'll come back with Super Bowl media week when all this stuff is going on and we'll see what's happening, man. But please continue to send questions. Dungeon of Doom at MLive.com. Shout out to everybody who submitted a question this week. I know I did it like last night at like 10 p.m. So thanks. But I'm Ben Raven. He's Kory Woods. And enjoy the downtime, man. I'm still getting used to it. It still feels weird.
Yeah, it feels weird, even so more so for me, because like I'm like, wait a minute. Past couple of years, when the season was over, I had to go to class.
Dude.
Now I don't have class. What do I do with this free time?
Dude, same. This is my first semester without grad school in 18 months, and it's like I don't have to go to Allen Park every day. I'm not traveling every weekend. What? I literally sat in my chair directly behind me for like 12 hours yesterday, and I played like 10 hours of video games, and I was like, what the hell just happened? I like zoned out so hard. I was like, that was awesome. I've never felt so rested in my life. So
yeah, what was that movie? Like, what do I do with my hands?
Talladega Nights. Like, I mean, it was seriously.
Yeah.
My girlfriend came upstairs and she's like, have you done anything today? And I was like, no. Just like, so I got a couple more of those days in me. But all right, man, you take care, and well, I'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, thanks for listening.
See you.